Okay. Funny how the heart can be deceiving more than just a couple times. Why do we scare ourselves so easy, even when it's not right? And where there is desire, there is gonna be a flame. Where there is a flame, someone's bound to get burned. And just because it burns doesn't mean you're gonna die. You gotta get up and try, try and try. Gotta get up and try, try and try. Just gotta get up and try, try, try. That is our theme tonight when we are talking about what it takes to make cheese, get things done, and do things. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a good Sunday so far. We sure are. And like I said, that song this time really struck me as a good thing to keep in mind when we're thinking about what it takes to build a business. Song, make a cheese, make a, what do you call this, a video cast? Make this a series? All the things we're trying to do, we're not perfect, but we're trying. And I think that's the key to anything. It's the key to making anything work is giving a try. So, welcome everyone tonight to our downtown San Diego studios of Venissimo Cheese. And I am your, I'm going to say co-hostess Gina with
Robbie G, the professor of cheese.
Yes, our professor today. Thank you all for joining us. To give you a few notes, if you've been with us before, thank you so much for coming again. If you haven't, if you are a YouTube subscriber, you can do live chat with us, and that's how we kind of like to answer questions and talk to people back and forth. So I'm going to say something and say hello. If you're not a YouTube subscriber, you can still watch just the chat. But we hope you can chat because we love the questions and all. So again, I'm Gina. Yeah.
Rob, let's
how are
get
you?
going. Good.
Yeah.
Good
Rob
on
just
Sunday.
got a puppy, everybody. It
I
makes
was
me
just
very
telling
excited.
Gina, yeah. It is very exciting. My wife showed up with a puppy yesterday for for her and my daughter, but
So cute.
for me too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's gonna be work, but it's gonna be very fun, and we're excited about it.
That's awesome.
So I woke up this morning to the doggy
What does
making
it take?
noises.
What does it take to
I'm
take
learning
care of a puppy?
I'm learning what it takes from 5 a.m. this morning, and it's she's the puppy's name is Pepper, and she must just be a couple weeks old.
Yeah.
And so she's right now there's just nothing going on, and we're gonna do everything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like,
That's so great.
yeah, she's a blank slate, so we're excited about it.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Rob,
Teach her all about cheese.
it's all about cheese. We're going to talk about, you guys, what it takes, because, I mean, it is fascinating, right, Rob, to take milk from somewhere in the world. I mean, high in the Alps, take that milk, turn it into a cheese, get it from the Alps to a ship or a plane, across the pond, somehow gets to us, gets chopped up, and then ends up on a cheese plate. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that today. Because it's really fascinating, and I think it answers a question that we get a lot is, why is cheese so expensive?
Yeah.
And we'll tell you why, because it's what it takes to make it. And Elena, by the way, likes your haircut. Rob got a haircut too.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a few weeks ago, but thanks, Elena. It was, let me tell you, it was tough to part with that, with the long hair. I had it for about a decade.
Yeah.
And but it was time.
Did you keep it? Like,
We do have it because we are. I'm serious. It's actually, I forgot we have it. You asked.
in a drawer?
Well, we're gonna donate it. Yeah.
I was gonna say don't. Yeah, I've heard many people do that. That's so awesome.
Well, my
I thought
wife
you
used
would.
to have a salon over on El Cajon Boulevard, and so she has a whole section of our house that's all hair stuff.
Oh
yeah,
my
it's like
God.
a section
And
of our
now
house,
your
and so
ponytail.
that's where we're storing it. But we are going to donate it. And come to
that's so
think of
good.
it, we
You got
haven't.
good
We
hair.
need to do that.
Well, there you go.
So to answer your question, yes, we still have it.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
So it's funny when we were trying to come up with the topic for this Sunday a couple weeks ago, and we were thinking. I was thinking, well, what about hard work? What about if we talk about the fact that people see the glamour and the glitz, and they see the half an hour of us talking about cheese and laughing, or they see the cheese board at the restaurant. Oh, look, there's a hummingbird in our shot. But nobody ever talks about all the boring stuff.
Yes.
And I said the word boring stuff, and Gina's like, well, maybe we shouldn't call it the boring stuff, because that might not be the most enticing title for
a
for
session.
Sunday sessions. But really 90 plus % of what we do is a grind. It's a grind.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Yeah.
answering phone calls, emails. It's showing up every day, and
It's trying something new every day.
yeah,
Trying
it's the
something different.
effort. And I say, I think one of the things we said on the last episode of Sessions was talent is overrated. But things like talent, timing, good luck, those are all bonuses.
Yeah.
Okay, but things get done. Results happen because of the effort, the hard work.
Yes.
and that
put in to
and
anything.
Quite simply, I will say, 95% of it, maybe 99%, is just answering every phone call, even if it's a no.
Yeah.
Answering the phone, answering the emails, showing up every day, but not just showing up on time, with a good attitude. And that can be easier said than done.
True.
When we're in customer service.
Yes.
Because we have bad days too.
Mm-hmm.
And but if
Stress.
you just do that all the time, good things will happen.
Yeah. What did I read the other day, Rob? Which suits perfectly. It's done is better than perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to get in and get it done.
Get it
You got to
done.
get it started. You can make it perfect later, but get it done.
And
Get it started.
talking about cheesemakers and cheesemongering, and when we say cheesemongering, it just refers to us who sell the cheese, but the cheesemakers are the first part of the process, and most of what they're doing is not very glamorous over there on the farm.
What's their percentage of what they do?
I'm gonna. A lot of them say, "Look, I'm a professional cleaner. That's
Yes.
what I do for a living. I clean."
Yeah, cheese making facilities, you guys, are like hospital rooms.
Yeah.
I mean, they are so sanitized, and they clean all
They
the time.
clean more than anything.
Yes,
and
to
there's
give
a little
us
bit
this.
of cheese making.
Yeah.
So it's all about
Yeah.
clean, and they clean as they go. Even a chef will tell you that it's all about cleaning as you go, keeping your space clean.
Yeah.
In the cheese shop, we are constantly wrapping, rewrapping, cleaning, and that's more than half the battle.
It is. This is the fun stuff, right? Is the designing the plates and doing all that. But wow, it takes a lot to get to this.
Yeah.
But that's very exciting. We want to identify these in case people jump ahead and say what each one is.
Yeah.
How shall I do it?
Let's do, or let's go in order to introduce them in
Yeah.
order. And let's go number 1, the Humboldt Fog.
Yeah. And this one, a lot of people already know, I think. The Humboldt Fog.
The Humboldt Fog is a softer white cheese, and it's got a line of ash through it. It kind of looks like bluing, but the line of ash goes through the middle, and it also goes around the perimeter of the cheese. So it's not blue, it's ash.
It's ash.
Cheese number 2,
The white one. Big yellow one.
the
Beige
yellowish
one.
hay straw colored, is a Gouda, and that's from Old Chatham. And that's, we'll talk about it, but it's a
Yeah.
mixed milk Gouda.
Because you can you're feel free to just dive in and nibble, because we don't want to keep you waiting by any means.
The third cheese is easy to identify because it's bright orange. That's our 5-year cheddar, and it's from Wisconsin.
Cheddar.
These are all American cheeses
Cheddar
too,
is
by the
better.
way.
Yeah, we went all American today, which I thought was really fun.
Yeah,
so we
so
can talk
it's
about their stories,
our
what it
other
takes to
theme.
make these cheeses, right?
The fourth cheese is called Caveman Blue, and that's from Oregon.
Hmm?
So that'll be the order that we taste. But like Gina said, feel free to dig in. Maybe you've already finished your plate. That's okay too. No worries at all.
We
But
don't judge.
Send us your questions. I hope when I put the phone on the tripod that I
You look
squared
pretty
us
good.
up. Are we good? Okay.
You make me look a little skinny today. I like that. Yeah.
Wait, what?
And then just a little accoutrements, everybody, because we always get asked what's on here. Grapes obviously goes without saying. These little guys, Sweetie Drop Peppers, they are back by popular demand, and it's something that I think you're going to see on a lot of our plates because we love them so much. Sweetie Drop Peruvian peppers.
Little spicy, not very much spice, mostly sweet.
Yep, exactly. Kind of like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good eye roll.
yeah.
And then Kikos, which are fancy names. They're Spanish corn nuts. Kikos give a good crunch.
Fancy corn nuts.
Everybody knows the dried mission fig. And then in the center, you guys, your little pot or pot de creme. It's not a pot de creme. It's a pot de honey. A pot of honey butter. So it's butter blended with honey, which is going to be spectacular. I'll tell you right now with your caveman blue. Okay. So there.
Yeah.
What do you want to start eating? You want to Humboldt Fog?
Let's start with Humboldt.
Yeah. Humboldt Fog. Okay, this is so cool, you guys. A female cheesemaker, Mary Keene, right? Been making this over 25 years now, right? Humboldt Fog. And cheese. This is a lady that had goats, lives in very northernmost California, Humboldt County.
Still one of the best ever.
It's such a good cheese.
Okay.
It's velvet, right? Velvety. But yeah, had goats. Goats make a lot of milk. You can't drink that much milk. She had the goats so she could provide milk for her children. But it's like, oh my God, we cannot drink all this. What do you do? Natural answer: make cheese, right?
Yeah.
Milk. Cheese is milk's immortality, right?
Something like that.
Giant leap to immortality
immortal,
or something.
Immortal milk.
Immortal
milk.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. To make the cheese.
So
so cool.
It's so funny. Like I feel old sometimes because people talk about 25-year anniversaries, and that's just 1995. It's 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But I remember
Where were
that
you?
year. I was in high school,
Okay.
but it was a very formative time for me. It was, a time where I was getting into like different types of music, and there's a lot of stuff going on in my life, all good stuff. But that was a time that was very memorable because it was like when, all a lot of like the O.J. Simpson and like the riots and the start of reality television and kind of like modern day, a lot of like the modern
reality,
but the information age with like the internet and all that stuff was happening. So it was
that's true.
very memorable
Right.
for me, and it trips me out when I see like 25th anniversary, and I'm like, oh my gosh. That was not that long ago.
Right, you can remember everything since then. And
But
she's been making this cheese all the time.
You made me think about it because Cypress Grove actually started in 1983.
That's crazy.
So it's
yeah.
37 years.
30-some, right?
37.
My math's not so good.
No, you said at least 25 years.
Okay, good.
So it goes back further. But Mary Keene, as Gina said, started making cheese even before that for her family.
Yeah.
And so she was in way northern California, and she has 4 kids, and she's a self-proclaimed hippie, and she wanted to know exactly what her kids were eating. And the story goes that she bought this little plot of land. I don't know if she had a little home or if she was in a trailer or what it was, but her neighbor had goats that were prancing around, and she was like, I want a goat. And she asked the neighbor if she can buy some goats off of her, and the neighbor said, hey, if you can catch them, they're yours. And she did.
Caught 'em.
She caught the goats. And 2 goats turned into 4 goats, turned into more goats. And
Funny how that works.
Turns into a lot of milk. And like Gina said, when you got milk, you got milk?
Got milk.
You can only, you can consume so much liquid milk. But she had 4 kids, and so she started making cheese. And hey, she was talented. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
And because she was talented, she made one of the best cheeses, I think, of all time.
Yeah, Humboldt Fog, right, Rob? I mean, it is probably the most well-known of all American cheeses.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows Humboldt Fog. I mean, from coast to coast.
Yeah.
People know this cheese.
I
And they
think-
make thousands of wheels of all this by hand still today, which
Yeah.
is super, super cool to see, right?
They've done more for artisan cheese and by consequence for people like us, for our careers, for Venissimo Cheese, in what they've done to just promote our industry over the years. And Humboldt Fog was the first cheese that I saw at a restaurant in San Diego on a cheese plate, and I was blown away by it. Not just by the way it tastes, but by the appearance of it. It is gorgeous, and that, believe it or not, is part of cheese making, the presentation, and then you get into the story behind the cheese with Mary Keene, and the cheesemaker is the name of the company is Cypress Grove. Humboldt Fog is their major cheese, and they have another 10 or a dozen cheeses. They have a couple Goudas and a lot of other goat's milk cheeses, mostly young or fresh goat's milk cheeses with various herbs and spices in them. They all have fun, clever names.
Yeah.
But Humboldt Fog is the one that really put them on the
Romantic.
map.
Yeah, it's a romantic notion.
And one of the themes for the cheesemakers that we chose today, they're all American, but what they have in common is that they all have grinded for many years. I think the newest one is 27 years old.
Yeah.
And that's
Right,
impressive.
and that is impressive. And to stick around that long with the amount of work that it takes, because everything that strikes me at the cheesemakers, cleaning all the time,
Yep.
which you just don't understand. And then you don't understand that it's 24 hours, it's every day of the year, 365 days of the year, because the animals are giving the milk. You have to do something with it every day. You don't take the day off. I'm not going to make it today. You don't get that luxury in cheese making.
You made me think of that
Yeah.
when you brought up my new puppy this morning and
No
my
day
little
off.
baby girl. Yeah, it's like
No
there-
day off, babies. Yeah,
Yeah.
babies and puppies.
There's
That's what it takes.
there is 0 days off, 0 hours off for
It's
any
the
of
price
that.
you pay, man.
But it's worth it.
Exactly. So is
totally
Humboldt
worth
Fog.
it.
Yeah.
And these cheeses are their babies. I mean, it's their life. It's
Dedication.
totally.
Yeah. Here's a hint, you guys. If you're ever looking at a piece of Humboldt Fog, which I thought was super cool, because they're all made by hand, they pack a layer of curds into the mold, pound it in there, and then they dust the ash over it. Okay? And then they'll put the next layer of curd on top. So then that's why you kind of looks like a layer cake, right? So the straighter the line, the more experienced the cheesemaker. So it's so crazy. Sometimes we get some that are like, what? What? And you're like, oh, that might have been a new cheesemaker,
Yeah.
pounding in the curds that day. Sometimes you get that exactly across
Yeah.
the line. I kind of like the ones that are like
Me too.
wavy.
Little
and
character.
so fun. Exactly. I wonder if ever they've ever probably tried to make art inside there, like make it heart shaped or something. That'd be super cool, right?
Like a mountain range
Yeah,
or
something.
And so just so you know, there's a meaning to the line that goes through the middle of the Humboldt Fog, and it symbolizes morning milk versus afternoon milk. A long time ago, I mean, now it's really more for show, and like I said, it's symbolic. But many years ago, there were cheeses made in Europe where they would have just enough milk or just enough curd to get half of a wheel of cheese, and they would put it in the form. And in order to protect that curd from all of the elements on the farm or in the cheese making facility, they would dust it with ash. Comte is the most famous one that I can think of, and that's from the French Alps. And so Humboldt Fog is paying tribute to that cheese. The Comte
Or Morbier, you mean?
What did I say? Sorry,
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
No worries.
The leftovers from Comte were made into a cheese called Morbier. That's what I meant to say. They're from the same region, and a lot of cheesemakers that made Comte also made this cheese called Morbier. It's Morbier, Morbier. But when they got the afternoon milk from the animals, they would top off the cheese, and then when you cut it open, there was this line of ash right through the middle, and it was morning milk and afternoon milk. And the cheesemaker Mary Keene is paying tribute to Morbier and other cheeses that were made like that.
She was inspired by it. Yeah.
But she went to the Loire Valley, and that's where, I mean, of course she started in Northern California, but after she was starting to get serious about it, and she thought, hey, I might actually do this for a living.
Exactly.
She went to the Loire Valley, and she really learned from the masters.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's kind of the mecca for soft ripened goat's milk cheeses.
Yeah.
And that's where they use the ash too, but in the Loire Valley, usually the ash is just around the rind or the outside of the cheese.
Yeah. And the ash serves many purposes. As Rob said, it protected the curd and the milk. It's beautiful. It's a natural preservative and without any alteration to the flavor. And the question came up from Kay Evans. Hello, Kay.
Hi, Kay.
Of what it's made of. And typically vegetable ash, and typically it's grape leaves. So they'll burn grape leaves and create this ash. So again, that symbiotic relationship with wine and cheese and everything, so it all comes full circle. But typically a vegetable ash.
They've also used cedar bark for this one, and it's what they usually do though is they use something that is local, something that is an expression of their terroir or the place where the cheese is made.
It's so cool. So, but I mean, think back to her story. So she's making this, kind of for her family.
Yeah.
And then I know she spent years just hauling her goods every week to farmers markets.
Yeah.
Standing in this stall. She's already had to milk the animals. do the cheese making, do the hours of cleaning involved with cheese making, then haul everything
Yeah.
to a farmer's market
Yeah.
to try to sell the cheese. You know,
And-
it's a lot of work. It's a
this-
labor of love.
Same is true for pretty much all of these
Yeah.
cheesemakers.
Yeah, we always laugh, not laugh. I kind of cry sometimes. I never see a cheesemaker zooming off in a Ferrari or anything like that. They don't. I mean, these are just people that love
They're
what they do.
farmers.
They're farmers. They are
Yeah,
farmers,
yeah.
probably kind of first and foremost. Like
Yeah.
you said, housekeepers 2nd. But truly, truly, everyone we've met, right? Labor of love. From everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You get the same thing.
And you know from having a business too that
Yeah.
it's I mean there's a lot that has to happen until to even get into the black. I
Yes.
mean you're taking a big risk.
Yeah.
And these
You try.
cheesemakers, same thing.
Yeah.
And you have to get to a certain point, like just to cover your cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, going to the markets, like you don't know how much to bring. Your time is valuable, so you
Yeah.
got to put account for that. And
Product's perishable.
yes, the product is highly perishable. So. And then you got to probably have to pay for a spot at the farmer's market.
Yes.
Another $50,
Yeah.
$100. You got to sell cheese just to cover that.
Yes.
So
Load
you're not
it,
even
unload it.
Yeah, load, unload. I mean, so many different things
Yeah.
going on there, and I mean,
It's amazing that anything gets to us, I think.
it has to be a labor of love.
Yeah.
I mean, just to even take that risk and get started.
Yeah. Well, I know I love to eat. That's why I have a retail shop versus the cheese making, right?
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
People
yeah.
have we've been lucky. I mean, we've been to Cypress Grove. We've been to some of these cheesemakers, and I'll tell you what. After visiting my first couple cheesemakers, I was like, I'm good. I think I'm going to stick with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather be behind the counter.
Yeah. All hail to the cheesemakers. Yeah. Thank
I mean,
goodness.
it takes a certain type of person, I think, to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the same token, it takes a certain type of person to do customer service, to be the front line with people, and luckily, there's lots of just like cheeses. There's lots of different types of people out there in the world.
Yeah.
Lots
as long
of
as
different
you can
personalities.
roll with it. Know that you're gonna have some good ones, bad ones. No, mostly good.
Some
and roll with
stinky.
it. It's all good. Some stinky. Yeah. But most of them are like Goudas, like bright, happy Goudas.
Yeah.
But then you do get some of the stinkers. You get the Limburgers that come
yeah.
in, and but that's all right. Yes, we digress. All right, off to the Gouda, because it's very Gouda.
Gouda.
What do you think, Rob? So this one, you guys.
I've never tried this.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of a new one for us. Mission Hills has it, everybody. From Old Chatham, which is typically a sheep cheese specialist. But this is mixed milk.
Yeah.
So this is all three. Sheep, cow, and goat.
Yeah.
Old Chatham Gouda. And it's very soft. This is a very young Gouda.
This is the texture is very unique on this. I have to tell you, like I was not expecting that. It was kind of like thick. I mean, the texture. I don't know how to
Fudgy.
describe it. Fudgy, I guess. It's a lot more like mouth coating than I was expecting it to be. Goudas can be. They have kind of a dryness and even crunchiness. This doesn't really have that. It has more of a fudginess to it.
But sweet. It does have that sweetness.
It has a little bit of sweetness. Old Chatham is from upstate New York, and they started making cheese, I guess, commercially in 1993. So they're 27 years on the grind. They are they're not quite all the way up to Syracuse or Rochester. They're maybe halfway to say like Buffalo.
Yeah.
So they're kind of middle of the state there.
Isn't that called the Hudson Valley? That
Oh,
whole
yeah,
area?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's Hudson Valley.
There's a good number of cheesemakers over there. They mostly do sheep's milk cheeses. In fact, they have a
Oh, I'll pick it. You talk.
They have a sheep farm, and so they have a sheep camembert. They have a sheep blue called Used Blue, but this one they must get milk from their neighbors because this Gouda, Old Chatham Gouda, is what we're calling it. I believe it's called Gorgeous Gouda though.
It is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous though.
It is mixed milk, so it's goat, sheep, and cow, and so I don't know where the goat and the cow's milk comes from, but it's definitely from one of their neighbors.
Definitely. Okay, this is just crazy. Here's more tape, Rob, while I talk. Because we've seen that often in the European cheeses. You know, the farmer has his allotment, you know, the milk that he knows he gets. But then a neighboring farm says, oh my gosh, I have all this extra this day. What can we do with it? And again, it's kind of like natural co-ops with neighbors, just so that nothing goes to waste. It's too valuable to go to waste. So I think they do anything to do it. So they're probably getting it, from the nearby farmers and
for sure.
making sure that they use it up. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that. There's a lot of barter that goes on with farmers and with their neighbors, and part of that has to do with the unpredictability. And you've got a product, you've got natural resources, and nothing ever goes to waste. That's a very common theme. So whatever you have left over either gets used for something, or you trade it with your neighbor for something else. You trade it to the bread maker next door, and perfect.
Yes, and that's so good.
And same with the farmers markets. When they go to the farmers markets, whatever's left over, hey, we're going to trade.
We'll trade. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, it's just so fun to do trades. But what, Rob, that brought me, remember AleSmith. So AleSmith Brewery, everybody in San Diego knows. They give, all of their spent grains, from the brewing process to Conan Dairy. Remember we saw this?
Yeah.
So they ship, they send that out to there so that the animals have this mixed into their feed.
Yeah.
And then in return, the truck comes back with milk that now AleSmith, they're starting Cheese-Smith, everybody, it's very, very exciting, uses to make the cheese. So they're sharing, just here in San Diego, we're not a farming community, obviously, but even here, a little of that goes on, and it's really cool to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all sustainability. It's all like the cycle of life, sharing. And I mean, you do see some of that stuff with, speaking of some other domestic cheesemakers, ones that we featured in other virtual classes, Beechers. I think we had Beechers recently. Was it last week? And they make cheese in Seattle, and they also make it in Manhattan in New York. Obviously, there's no farms right there in the city.
Right, exactly. In either place.
So they bring the milk in every day from just outside the city.
Like at 4 a.m.
Oh yeah, and then what happens is while the truck drops off their milk for the day, they pick up all the whey that's left over from the cheese making process, and then they bring it back out to the farm with them.
Yeah.
So the truck is empty. Both ways, it's completely efficient. And when they get back to the farm with the whey, and they may even drop it at neighboring farms, they can give that whey to horses or other farm animals. I mean, there's a million uses for it.
Making the protein, some of the big cheese producers, the kind of the industrial cheese producers, that whey goes to make, whey protein powders and
I was gonna
things
say,
like that.
Like we were saying, how most of when you ask cheese makers, what they do, what most of their day consists of, cleaning. At night, it's all cleaning. It's all we do is clean. I'm like just a cleaning person. But the other thing they say is some of the industrial producers, they say, I don't make cheese, I make whey. There's so much more whey left in the process, and they can make pretty good money selling that whey to nutrition stores, because that's such a big business nowadays.
Yes. Yeah, you're all injecting the protein powder into the everything.
Yeah. You get your whey protein. When you go to Jamba Juice, you get your shot of whey.
Yeah. No, that's where it comes from. Yeah, no way. No way. Yes way. Too good. Okay, I had the Gouda with the sweetie drop. It was really delicious. Everybody try that together. I thought that was yum. I haven't done the honey butter yet. You should try that too. But anyway, the pepper is really good with the Gouda, the Gouda, as we like to say. So we do a Gouda. Now we're kind of even doing a style talk, right, of cheddar, because everything's better with cheddar. This one, you guys, Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
Cheese. Okay. Crunchies in this one. There's a debate. Is California or Wisconsin the cheese capital of the U.S.? Professor McCheese, what do you know?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if anyone is watching from Wisconsin, but if they are, then it's Wisconsin.
But we know a lot from California are watching.
I would say that, Wisconsin gets a bad rap, I think, because sometimes people think that it's just like big industrial, American cheese or block cheddars, but they make everything in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And they do as well in California. It's mostly Northern California. We just mentioned Cheese-Smith, which is the only one here in San Diego, but they're just getting started. There's a few in LA. Most of it is in Northern California, and they make every style. But same thing with Wisconsin. I mean, you have in Wisconsin a lot of what we see though is people basically make what their forebears made, and we saw a lot of people. I didn't see them, but I know this history. A lot of English, Swiss, Dutch people settled in the Midwest, and they made what was made in their home country. And so you see a lot of Swiss cheeses, a lot of cheddars,
washed rinds,
cheeses, and that's like a German, Belgian, French style. Brick is like basically a mix of Limburger and cheddar,
so
or washed rind and cheddar. Colby and Jack, those are sort of like a take on Gouda. They're a washed curd. Colby is the name of a town in Wisconsin, so that's a Wisconsin original. Yeah. But I mean, you can find everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you really can, and they do have the mass production too. But then they have the real good artisanal makers, like this husband and wife team.
Yeah, this is a really fun one.
Yeah.
This is so it's called Hook's 5-Year Cheddar, and Hook's is the last name of the cheese makers. They're a husband and wife team. They are named Tony and Julie Hook, and Tony Hook was. He first apprenticed as a cheesemaker in 1970. That's 50 years ago.
That's crazy.
He became a licensed cheesemaker in 72. They started Hook's Creamery in 76.
It's crazy. In the same location, do you know?
No, it was a different location. Okay. They outgrew that location, so they started making Swiss and cheddar, Midwest. So I'm sure their roots were probably English and Swiss, and then they started making some Colbys and some Jacks. They expanded into a bigger facility in a little town called Mineral Point, and we've been there too.
Oh my gosh, this one, the front end of a truck would go through right before you know, it's so small. Let's just put it this way, but they're making tons of cheese.
They make tons of cheese. Yeah. They expanded, they started making blue cheeses in, I think, the late 90s, and we carry all their blue cheeses here and there. They've got sheep's milk blue, they've got cow's milk blue, even mixed milk blue. That's the "You Have to Be Kidding Me" is from them. Great name.
Marketing.
Yeah, great marketing. But Tony and Julie. In fact, Julie Hook was the first woman to win world's best cheese. She was the first woman cheesemaker to win world's best cheese, and this is going back into the 90s. So cool. That's one of her claims to fame. And they make a ton of cheddars. I remember we went into their aging facility. They've got 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year.
Yeah, up to 15.
10 year. They come out with a 20 year every once in a while.
Yes. And can we just share? It has the crunchies, you can see. And everybody taste it, how moist this cheddar is. Because cheddars can be kind of dry. This is not, and I'll tell you why. We saw this. When you think of an aging facility, I think everybody's seen, right, Rob? The wheels of Parmigiano stacked on the wood boards in Italy, all in a line and whatever. This was so interesting to me because the cheddars, cheddar blocks typically come in like 40-pound cubes, right? It looks like just a big cube. Yeah. They put the when it's young, right away into a bag, a plastic bag. No kidding.
Like cryovac.
Cryovac. Label that bag with the date. And then they literally shoved it up into the rafters. We saw this, you guys. You'd think it would have to get more attention or something. And then they let it sit up there for 10,
however long,
12, 15, up to 20 years, you guys, in a bag, which retains the humidity and the moisture in there. The room is, temperature controlled, so it's very consistent. But it retains the moisture. He said they don't even have to turn it or do anything to it. But yet it retains the moisture flavor. It kind of ages evenly. I'm always fascinated by that because I would think it would require a lot more of that daily attention, flipping it, turning, whatever. Oh no, and it's so delicious. Yeah.
Well, and there's also a science of aging, and we've talked about that as well. And when you look at the more traditional cheddars, they a lot of times are wrapped in a cheesecloth, and they'll brush the cheesecloth in something lard or something fatty, and that makes a protective layer, and it also makes the cloth stick to the outside of the cheese. Those cheeses will age, I would say, a maximum of 2 years, and then they'll kind of dry out. Whereas if you do it this way, if you're aging this way, you can go for forever. I mean, I've heard of cheddars that get up to 40 years, actually.
They need to. I bet you they're trying that.
Yeah. Oh, I guarantee you they're holding a bunch of stuff back. And speaking of them as people, you sent me out there before we went out as a crew. There was a conference in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm not sure how close their facility is to Madison, but it must not be that far
because we drove.
I was there for a conference maybe like 10 years ago now. I don't even know, but they I went to the farmers market, which is around the Capitol building in Madison on the Saturday or Sunday. And no disrespect to the farmers markets here in San Diego, but the one in
different,
Madison
yeah.
was incredible.
Why was it different or
It
better?
was just massive.
Okay.
And there was just the bounty was just incredible.
crazy.
There were tons of cheesemakers, and the cheesemakers were all local. Like at
Yeah.
our markets, we have some cheese people, but they're just selling. They're like retailers, you know.
Yeah, because there's no cheese made here.
Yeah.
It's
So,
not
but the
our-
cheesemakers who were selling the cheese, they literally made the cheese themselves, put it in their car, drove
I know.
to the market, and so that was the first time I met Tony and Julie was actually at the market.
At the market.
They were selling their cheese,
Yeah.
and this was probably in 2000,
Yeah.
maybe 12 or 13.
There's
or
not a
something.
team that's running it for them. They are doing all this work. That's what it takes.
My
for them
point
to
is
be in
they
business.
were 30, 40 years in at this
Yeah.
point, and they're still at the farmers market
Yep.
doing it.
They must love it. They love it.
And they are just salt of
Yeah.
the earth. They're just the nicest
Yeah.
people. And
Eat this rub before I eat it. And I'm with Kevin. She agreed to. The cheddar, you guys try it with, because we know everything's better with butter.
My
The
God.
honey butter on the cheddar is
Holy
fantastic.
Toledo.
Because it's so creamy. That's ridiculous,
Oh my
though,
God.
right? Wouldn't it be nice if that was like a layer cake or something?
Wow.
Oh.
Well, we didn't talk much about the Velvet Bees honey butter,
Yeah.
and that's what that accoutrement is, and that's from Minnesota, and it's another husband and wife team. The ingredients are just honey, butter, heavy cream, sugar, vanilla.
Yeah. Whipped together
Mm-hmm.
into a velvety frenzy that's delicious.
So we picked it because Velvet Bees, and we thought worker bees.
Worker bees, yes.
They fit our theme.
They fit the theme that it takes a lot of work to get something delicious, and the bees know it.
Uh-huh.
And think of what they do to give us honey butter and
Yeah.
beautiful honey.
Oh, yes.
So good. We have someone on the line that has had a question. Noel, thanks for asking. Why is there no cheese made here? Money.
Yeah.
Dollars. Two things, really. The expense of doing it is huge, and San Diego's such an expensive place to do business.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the lack of the quality milk. I mean, to get the amount of milk that you need, there are no farms nearby to do it, which then adds another cost. We've got the dairies up there in where is it, like Corona,
Yeah.
Ontario. Up that direction, and
Yeah.
there are dairies.
And there's some in like Escondido.
Yep, smaller ones. But again, the cost of raising that, getting that milk, bringing it to an expensive place like San Diego. Now, the one person that's trying it, Noel, is AleSmith. Because the brewer, he's a Renaissance man. He loves to create and make things. He made, AleSmith beers, and now he's fascinated with cheese making, is starting to make some fresh cheeses. But he's said it 100 times, this is a complete labor of love.
Yeah.
There is no money to be made. He just loves to do it, wants to be able to sell some fresh things at the brewery. But the cost of it is so huge. Unfortunately, this is why.
And he's trying to do everything himself. He can't afford to pay anybody to really help him yet. And he's pretty well established with his brewing, obviously. And but he's in there every day. I mean, breaking his back trying to make cheese, and he's just like, I love it, but I don't know how long I can do this or if I can sustain this. And
we explored it. We're like, we should do it like Beechers. Like, you think, well, Seattle's expensive, yes. And as is in New York City, yes. But they do have more resources than we even have here.
Well, what they have the farms that are close by. Like even if you're in San Francisco, it's you throw milk on a truck and it's just 45 minutes away, and it comes in at 4 in the morning. You can beat all that traffic and be out of there. We don't really have that here. I mean, and it's a huge initial investment to, to get something like that going. But I mean, it can be done, and I think it will be done eventually. It's just a matter of time.
Somebody tried to do it like Chula Vista years ago,
Yeah.
a bigger dairy, like Challenge, that had money. They really had the money to do it. But even they, Rob, couldn't make it quite happen. It's really hard.
What was the guy's name up in the Gouda producer, the Dutch guy, Winchester?
Yes, that's right, Winchester. He was the closest.
And they were up, is it like
Hemet.
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 And we did I remember years ago we did a day trip out there.
Yeah.
To visit his facility, and it was right before they shut down.
Yeah, and there were cows right there. I mean, so he did have a
Yeah.
source right there, which probably helped. And Hemet, a lot cheaper place to do business. But even that, we couldn't quite make it happen, right?
I believe that the farm next door to him was Altadena.
Altadena, yeah.
But he must have just purchased some, probably a small amount from what they were giving
It's crazy.
to make his Goudas. He was just a Dutch guy. He had some kids that just didn't want to take over
all
the
of
business.
them were like, oh, hell no. You have to love it.
Well, that's it. They saw how hard it was, and
what it takes.
and they just said, "Nah, I think I'll work at Starbucks."
Yeah, so true. All right, Rob. So on to the next. Are you ready?
Yeah. Did you put any?
I did.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I should have given it to you, virgin, whatever,
No.
first,
It's good.
and then tried the honey butter, which is now going to be on everything. But this one,
Oh my
Rogue
God.
Rogue Creamery
Oh boy.
in Oregon, Central Point, Oregon. Is that so good?
Yeah.
Makes
It
cheese.
tastes like something. I'm trying to figure out what it is.
You think about it. Rogue Creamery, Central Point, Oregon. Makes lots of blue cheeses. This one happens to be called Caveman. What a cool name for it. It's a fudgy. It's a bit of an earthy. It's a powerful
It's
blue. This
funky.
is not your first grade blue. This is up there. You're getting into junior high blue in this one, I think. Yeah. What do you think? Did you figure out what it tastes like?
No, I'm probably gonna have to eat more of it.
Okay, I'll make you more.
Caveman. It's called that for a few reasons. One, of course, it's aged in a cave. But like Gina said, Central Point is in southern Oregon, and they're pretty close to the Rogue River. And they have like 70 acres of land, and they've got their own cows. They've got a couple hundred or so cows, and a lot of their acreage is right on the Rogue River. And they have mostly Swiss Brown and Holstein cows.
Okay.
So they get quite a bit of milk, and they make cheddars. They collaborate with some of the local breweries. And then, of course, blues. They have a really famous blue called Rogue River Blue. And
don't ask, that's not here yet. It will not be here until end of September, is my guess.
it's actually wrapped in local Syrah leaves, talking about speaking of using local ingredients to express terroir in cheeses. But I was going to say that in that part of southern Oregon, the local sort of regional mascot is the Caveman.
Oh,
and,
okay.
It's
So
one
hence-
of those places
Nice.
where they're known for having Bigfoot sightings.
Nuh-uh.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
So
'cause
that's part of where that myth comes from, or
That's
part of where.
interesting. I've been there and I could not see Bigfoot traipsing through that part of Oregon.
Well, maybe if you get out a little, maybe it's not Bigfoot, maybe it's Daryl.
Maybe it is. Oh, my feet big. I tell you what that tastes like.
What does it taste
It's like I licked the barn floor,
with the honey on it?
even with the honey.
There
Now
was
that's no
something-
honey. You can try that too. No, I think that is barnyardy. If there is a cheese that deserves the label barnyardy, I think it does. Does anyone agree? I think it is super barnyard floor, but I like it.
Yeah. Well,
That's without the honey butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's aged in limestone caves, and so it has.
Stony, mineral-y.
I can totally taste the mineral. One of the adjectives for blue cheeses is metallic, and I totally get that metallic, kind of stony flavor to it, or profile. They're organic.
Yeah, really good cheeses. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of some other stuff they do. They do some cheddars where they like press them with stouts and.
Yep, Orgonzola.
Oh,
Their
that's right.
version of a Gorgonzola. Play on names. Oregonzola.
Mm-hmm.
Just Oregon Blue. Kind of like their version, which I'd say they're a version of Point Reyes Blue. Just a really light, kind of, not fluffy, but a lighter blue. So they've got a range of flavors. But Rogue River, you guys, when it comes out, we're going to have to just we might have to share just on these virtuals because they go so fast and we
Yeah.
only get allocated. I think they're
Put them
limiting us
aside.
to 2 wheels a shop or something.
Oh, really?
They're only 5-pound wheels.
Why don't
Yeah.
they make more?
Then that's the whole issue too. There's another issue, Rob. You want to make more because
I
then
know.
maybe you make more money, but then it loses its cachet as being an
Marketing.
artisanal
I get
product,
it.
a craft type product.
Yeah.
This is very difficult. So, anyway.
Well, it's in sticking with our theme of hard work, showing up every day. The creamery originally opened in 1933.
That's a long time.
It changed hands in early 2000s. I want to say 2002. So the current owners have had it since then.
Okay.
But
Nice. Well done.
a lot of history there. Then the original owner was Igvella,
Yeah.
who has his dry jack which is another kind of iconic California
cheese, yeah.
from made in Sonoma, and it's a really hard cow's milk cheese, and it was used in place of Parmigiano Reggiano actually for a lot of the for part of the 20th century.
Okay.
There was times where Parmigiano Reggiano wasn't available, so
okay. That's so interesting.
You had to go with a dry jack. This is so good.
Oh, you like it? Okay, so you know what? Carol, hello Carol, she's been to many of these virtuals, says her husband thinks it tastes like peanut butter. Peanut butter, cheese, bread, and honey butter together. Peanut butter. Okay, I'm going to try. Carol, if you get peanut butter? A little peanut butter?
I can taste a little bit of that.
That's a good texture, like peanut butter texture. Similar qualities. Oh yeah, with that honey, I love that honey butter velvet bees.
So good. It's also really good on the crackers. I don't know if we talked about the crackers, but they are called Rain Coast Crisp, and they
fruit, seeds, and nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're from a small producer in Canada.
Vancouver.
Is it Vancouver? And I know she for the longest time was hustling her product, probably going to farmers markets and I've actually seen like imitations of her stuff.
Yes, they're all over the place.
Yeah. So there's people that just copy her, and even the packaging looks similar.
Yeah.
So, hey.
And that's the thing.
It's
there are only so many flavors or products, and you have to differentiate somehow.
Yeah.
Cool name, but a lot of work to get it done. Does anybody have a favorite out there? What was your favorite today?
Oh gosh.
I think they're so different.
I want to say the Caveman was my favorite.
Caveman was your favorite?
I think my all-time favorite today, Caveman, but my all-time favorite, the one I keep going back to is Humboldt Fog, and I know that just because of my history.
You're like
I have certain go-tos that are always, I mean, Camembert, Humboldt Fog, cheeses that I always have.
Yeah,
around.
that you just love.
I
mean, Humboldt Fog. Yeah,
I don't get sick of them.
No, if we run out of Humboldt Fog and Fromage Dauphinois, we should shut the doors and turn off the lights and hide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another. They're making, as I mentioned, Cypress Grove makes a number of other cheeses, and there's one called Bermuda Triangle. It's basically the Humboldt Fog, but just in a different shape. It's like this long triangular shape when you cut them. Yeah. Bermuda Triangle.
So Julie thought that it's more barnyardy, the Caveman, with the honey.
Oh.
So that's one of the times, Julia, it's interesting. Yeah, they're completely different flavors with or without the honey, but fun to try both ways. Yeah.
And try the honey with the Humboldt Fog too. I forgot. That's another.
Yeah, do you want to try that?
Sure.
I didn't try that one, but that's always a good combination. Well, honey with all of the cheeses.
I know.
Yeah.
You really can't
do you want
go
your
wrong.
to do honey, you said?
Yeah.
We've got a vote for a favorite being the cheddar today.
Ooh.
And the Gouda. Okay, Evans, I'm with you. The cheddar was good. Am I going to pick the cheddar or the Humboldt as my favorite today? I was kind of in the mood for Humboldt, so I might stick with that. I think I needed that creaminess today, but yeah, it's all just really great.
Oh, it's delicious.
But again, everybody, if I can just inform that the work that goes into to make the cheese, and we talked about the U.S. ones, which imagine that, a small farm in the middle of Wisconsin, somehow that cheese gets to us where we can chop it up and put it on the table. And like in the case of this, they had to house this cheese, put it in the little cheese hotel for 5 years before they even made any money on this cheese.
Can I say
right?
why I wanted to pick a 5-year cheese?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You may.
Gina goes, what are you thinking for cheeses like that are going to fit the theme? I go, okay, Gina, we need a 5-year cheddar or a 5-year Gouda. Why is that? I said, because look, if you take 50 weeks in a year, you take out 2 weeks for vacation and 40 hours a week, that's 2,000 hours a year. So 5 years makes 10,000 hours.
Which is the magic.
That's the magic number. That's the threshold.
Yeah.
And
to get something done, to really achieve something.
I just wanted to bring up that whole talking point.
We do try to tie these plates into a theme.
That was the reason for the 5-year. And I was like, yeah, we should do all 5-year cheeses. And Gina nixed that.
Yeah, no, we're going to.
So that was the idea with
that's the thought there.
The 5-year. But going back to Gina's point about, the other stuff that it takes for these cheeses to get to us, like in a little place like Wisconsin, a lot of a lot of the cheesemakers from Wisconsin, they all are off of the same highway, and because it's so expensive, if you wanted to just ship a couple of cheeses to California, the cost would be so prohibitive that we'd have to charge $100 a pound for it.
Yeah.
So they all get together to make a pallet leave the area, and they just piggyback on top of each other,
Yeah.
and they throw all their stuff on to the pallet or a couple pallets, and it comes out, and they split the cost of shipping, and it comes to us. But there's a lot of middlemen, and everybody has to take their cut.
Yeah, which answers the question, why is cheese so expensive?
Right. So the trucks,
Yeah.
and the trucks are refrigerated, and the cost of gas is going up, and the cost of minimum wage is going up, and they get here to California, and then they have
Fact
to
of life.
sit in a distribution center. Sometimes they get redistributed, so they go through a couple distribution centers, and they're back on a truck, and then they come to Venissimo.
I always think it'd be so fun, Rob, to be able to attach a little camera to something,
Yeah.
and especially the ones like the Swiss ones,
Uh-huh.
from high. We know these. We're going to adopt Alps in the fall, where we are getting a cheese from a family of 4 that maybe makes 20 wheels a year.
Yeah.
We're going to get a wheel from each of these families. I would love to be able to attach a little mini GoPro to that wheel to see what it takes to get from way high on that mountain through all those channels you just talked about, or rolling it into our store. Would be just amazing.
I
think
was
it'd
just
be cool.
talking about Wisconsin, but yeah, imagine the Swiss Alps. I mean,
No.
just imagine. And
Middle of nowhere.
you've got it, and that's
Yeah.
why so many cheeses don't leave their little area. Is because they just don't have a means or the logistics to get it out of there.
Yeah. So we're very lucky that we have lots of means and sources
Uh-huh.
to get all these yummy things.
Yeah, they.
So- Yeah, lots of comments. Humboldt Fog got lots of votes today. Everyone loved everything, but I think Humboldt might have eked everyone out, so that's interesting. We need to get a gauge all the times on what the favorite of the day was. Yeah, and just the time, Carol brought up again, imagine the time it takes to make a cheese. 5 years in this case.
Yeah.
A year it could be on some of these other cases, but at least, 6 weeks and 100 hands touching it, some form or fashion. It's crazy.
I don't
Yeah.
know what the cost of the 5-year cheddar is, but I know the 10-year is really expensive.
Yeah.
And I think you do have to pay for storage. I mean, if you think about it, even though I know they just kind of shove it up in the corner there, it's still taking up space.
And they had to invest in making it and not get any return on that for 5 years.
Yeah.
0 return. That's a crazy model.
And
Yeah,
speaking of,
that's so
when you
crazy.
have a lot of milk and you need something to do with it, or when you can only drink, or when a village can only drink so much of it, part of cheese making is the idea is to up the value of milk. It's to get more money for their milk.
More money for the milk, yeah, and longevity in the milk.
Yeah.
So
And that's
true.
and that's the point of, speaking of the Swiss Alps. I mean, that was the whole point of making cheese in the Alps was to preserve their milk.
Yes, exactly.
And bust it out in the colder months.
What is next up, Rob, on the virtuals? Wino Wednesday, right?
Wino Wednesday. Have we picked? Is it next Wednesday? I feel
The 12th. We missed this week.
the 12th, and the next one is Shiraz in Syrah.
Nope.
We're doing
Next one
some-
is
Super Tuscan. Sorry. After that, it's
Mamma
gonna be
mia, Super
sorry.
Tuscan.
Super Tuscan, and so obviously we'll do some Tuscan cheese as well,
Yes,
and accoutrements.
We are. And it's some that you've been there too. We're going to have some featured from places we've been,
Uh-huh.
which is super cool, and all focused on Tuscany things.
Ooh,
Tuscan
maybe we'll throw
delights,
in
Tuscan treats.
some good history there.
There's
some
history
Renaissance,
there?
some Renaissance. There's just
They
a
have
little
history
bit,
in
just a
Tuscany?
little bit.
Yeah. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you learned a little something, maybe found a new cheese that you love. We look forward to the next one. Always thank you. Have a good evening, good night, ciao. No, we're American today.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Have a good one, everyone, and see you next time.
Bye.
Stream finished.